Hi everyone, Greg here from Personal Evolution. Today we are taking a look at the Flare network, specifically the Flare white paper. Now this is going to be quite a technical analysis of the Flare network rather than my usual fundamental analysis. I will be doing a fundamental analysis, so if you're more business minded or want to see more about the token price, then that's going to be the video for you. This, however, is a technical analysis. We are literally going to read through the white paper together to pick apart what's going on, and I'll give you some thoughts and commentary as we go through. By no means I'm an expert on these things, so again, always do your own research and that sort of thing. But without further ado, let me show you what we are looking at. So in green is the Flare white paper. That is what we are going to take a look at today. Following on from that, we may do a video on Flare XRP, which outlines how the XRP token will be switched into Flare and how FXRP is represented in the Flare network. And if you're really, really clever or really bored, the FCP paper details the consensus protocol that Flare network uses. And that really, I started taking a look at it and that really goes into detail. But for now, we are going to look at the Flare network and Spark token white paper. So let me bring that up a bit clearer for you. Okay, so I did start this earlier, but I felt that it was going to be good to actually walk through and give my thoughts as we go. When you're reading these technical papers, if you haven't come across them before, it's generally a good practice to just read the abstract first and see if you're interested. I'll assume that we are for now, and then we'll plow on into the rest of it. If there is a conclusion, it's probably worth reading that straight after the abstract before getting to the more meaty bits. But as there isn't one on this, as it's a white paper, we'll leave that for now. So, abstract. What is Flare Networks all about? And we should understand it pretty much, give or take, from this, but I will try and explain it as we go. Okay, so let's take a look at the abstract. So, the Flare Network is a distributed network running the Avalanche Consensus Protocol, adapted to Federated Byzantine Agreement, and leveraging the Ethereum virtual machine. So all these terms that we don't understand will be explained. Already, if you look down here, if you see my highlights, we get the Federated Byzantine Agreements, which tells us that it is a class of scalable consensus protocols. So if you're reading this abstract and thinking, what on earth is this talking about? It will be explained in the text. It's just to get a taster for what is happening. So it can thus be leveraged as a scaling method for smart contract networks without relying on economic safety mechanisms. What this means, and it comes in the next sentence, the absence of a link between network safety and the native token Spark, the Spark, allows for greater flexibility as to how the native token can be used. We'll come back to this. The Spark-dependent application model provides a blueprint for building applications on the Flare network. This relies on three components: Spark used as collateral, Spark used to contribute to the Flare time series oracle, providing on-chain data estimates, and Spark used as a participation token in governance schemes. So reading this little bit, I'm already quite interested because there's three interesting things there. So how are they using a Spark as collateral if they don't need a network safety and native token link? How does Spark contribute to a Flare time series oracle, providing on-chain data estimates? I think I saw in another video prior to this when I was doing a little bit of pre-research. The oracle provides estimates of prices for, say you're using FXRP, it will tell you the Flare to XRP conversion, but we will get onto these. And interestingly, Spark will be used already as a governance token. So already some interesting things there. I'm interested also to learn how the link between network safety and native token will give this flexibility and to use it in these three different methods. But let's carry on. So, introduction. What this is going through is the increase in interest in smart contracts platform. We've seen the battles between Ethereum, DOT, Cardano. These are all hashing it out. Now, most of them rely on something called proof of stake. Proof of stake, which allow their network participants to lock in the network's native token into a staking contract, which they lose in the case of malicious behavior. And this is a key bit. Thus, the network safety is proportional to the value of the stake committed. What Flare is arguing is that this will limit the use cases that are possible or desirable to express on proof of stake based networks. And what they mean by this is competing uses for the network's native tokens, such as DeFi, can cannibalize the safety of the network. So if you're putting your tokens into a DeFi protocol for yield farming or something like that, you're not going to be staking them, and therefore that compromises the network security. So federated Byzantine agreement are a class of scalable consensus protocol that do not rely on economic mechanisms to secure the network. So this already is stating their key tenet, which is the separation of economic safety to what the token is doing. So then it goes on to say Flare first introduced this. Turing complete, if you don't know what that means, it means please go do your own research. So they base it on the Avalanche protocol, which we can look up here, in an FBA setting, which we can look up here, and integrating into the EVM. So that allows its compatibility with Ethereum. The resulting network is scalable, safe, and decentralized. It is free from the constraints and potential safety conflicts, utilizing economics means to solve the Sybil attack. So Sybil, that is the 50% attack when someone takes over a network sort of thing. So Flare's native token, so this is where we're getting into what the Flare's token is used for. The Spark is required for spam control at the network level. Because the safety of the network is not contingent on the token itself, Spark can be used in the ways that it would be unsafe for other networks. First, Spark can be used as collateral within applications. So say you want to do a bank loan, I guess, you can then almost put the Spark tokens as collateral on the loan, and say you want to take out a 4 times loan or against the Spark tokens, you can put that up as collateral. And if you default on the payments back, you will forfeit those tokens. Second, Spark as a contributor, but not the sole contributor to an oracle providing on-chain time series data estimates called Flare time series oracles. Again, we don't quite know what this means yet. I'm sure it'll be explained in a second. Third, Spark as a governance methodology across all elements that rely on it. Yeah, so they're going to do something interesting with the Spark tokens to allow you to vote on various things as I'm reading it. Furthermore, as the network itself doesn't require staking or computation returns, so that's a reference to proof of work, the FTSO, which is the Flare time series oracle, they will always introduce the acronym first. So if you ever get lost, just scroll up and find it, or do a Control F and find it. Becomes the inflation function for Spark itself. I guess in some way you're burning Spark tokens when you contribute to the providing on-chain time series in some way, because that will drive the inflation function. Or actually, no, it won't be burnt, it will be mined because it's inflationary, not deflationary. So I think that is what that means. Let's take a look at the next bit. One natural application for SDA, so Spark-dependent applications, is to enable trustless token representation of non-Turing complete tokens. So again, coming back to that non-Turing thing, I know XRP is an example of this. That's why Flare is launching on that. Indeed, approximately 75% of the value that has emerged in the public blockchain is in cryptocurrencies on non-Turing complete blockchains. So this is in reference to Bitcoin, Litecoin, and XRP, those sorts of things that are considered kind of store of value and utility coins, not smart contracts coins. Smart contracts are Turing complete, or maybe not all of them, but most of them are. So therefore, Spark enables the value represented by these tokens to be used on a scalable smart contract platform in a trustless manner. Great, amazing stuff here. Furthermore, once that value is represented trustlessly on Flare, it can then potentially be propagated across the other networks through interoperability networks such as Cosmos and or Polkadot. So this is saying that from the ground up, it's going to be a interoperable system, which is always great. We love to hear that in crypto. It's the whole ethos of Web3, and yeah, really exciting. So the first representation is XRP as detailed in Net 20. I believe that will just link to XRP time paper, which for the first time will allow XRP to be used trustlessly within Turing complete smart contracts. So this is basically saying when they launch, they're going to launch with XRP. And going back to the screen before, where we saw that they had the FXRP white paper, we can see that is what they are going to launch with. And it just echoes that in the abstract. That is a trustless representation of the XRP token on the Flare network. Okay, So that's basically, this has given us already quite a few interesting things to think about. The next paragraph just outlines what we're going to learn in each section. You might want to stop the video and grab a drink because we are going to go through all of these and see where we get to. This document proceeds as follows. Section 2 introduces the Flare network and its consensus mechanism. Section 3 outlines the specification of the Spark as a token that works like a master key for potential series of other tokens and applications. In Section 4, the Flare time series oracle is presented, and in Section 5, the governance of the network is discussed, whereby Spark token holders can vote to modify network parameters. Finally, Section 6 presents the Flare Foundation, which structures with the aims of advancing the network and helping implement certain government decisions, whilst being transparent, neutral, and naturally reducing in prominence. Crucially, it can be dissolved by the Spark token holders if it does not perform to expectations. Again, I think this is quite an interesting little document. So we already know that if we've got questions about stuff, we can just jump to that. Although the real interesting thing for me here is this bit that says, and I think that's why they draw attention with it crucially, it can be dissolved by Spark token holders. So we're already getting hints at how this governance of the network is going to be done and how much power the end users are going to have. So really great stuff here. It's nice to see it laid out in such a nice way. Cool. So I think to keep this shorter than maybe 8 hours, we will go into each one of these and we'll just look at the overviews for each one. And yeah, if you want an in-depth reading of each one where we go through together, we can do that. Leave us a comment below. But for now, let's dive into the Flare network. So, 2, the Flare network. In this section, an overview of the Flare network is presented in 2.1, which includes a discussion on the network consensus, as well as the safety, complexity, and liveness considerations. In subsection 2.2, the process of achieving consensus on the state of any deterministic system external to the network for use in downstream applications such as the XRP ledger state for use in FXRP on Flare is presented. So, a bit wordy, but again, it's just an introductory paragraph. It's just saying what we're going to find out in each one. But I think the interesting bit for me here is the discussion of the network consensus as well as its safety. And 2.2, how on earth is it going to know what the state the ledger is in? Well, this is how it's going to know, and that's all laid out in section 2.2. So, 2.1. Flare network is a distributed network whereby nodes run the Avalanche consensus protocol with a key adaptation to the Federated Byzantine Agreement consensus topology. The Flare network leverages the Ethereum virtual machine by enabling the network to run Turing complete smart contracts. The combined usage of the FBA consensus topology with a Turing complete smart contract layer makes Flare a scalable public smart contract network that does not require a native token for safety. This is a useful property as the cost to attack network safety in networks that do leverage a token for safety is related to the speculative value of the token. So what this is saying here, if I just highlight this, so say a token is really cheap, you can effectively buy 50% of that token quite quickly. So say a massive hedge fund wants to take control of a network and the market cap's something like, I don't know, 10 million, because it's a really small coin. They can put 5 million in and control the network, because then they can stake that and take it over. So that's what that means. Therefore, facilitating an incentive in these networks to create a double spend attack, whereby the cost of an attack is lower than the reward from the successful double spend. Yeah, so what this is basically doing is to disincentivize anyone who would attack it, because the rewards for attacking the network is going to be less, lower than the reward from overcoming it. So instead of being used for network safety, Flare's native token, the Spark, introduced in Section 3, is used trustlessly to issue tokens from non-Turing complete networks such as XRP onto Flare so that they can be leveraged in Turing complete smart contracts. But yeah, I think this is the key bit. It's taking any non-Turing complete token, Bitcoin, Litecoin, anything that basically doesn't do smart contracts, XRP being the main one here, and it has a representation on the network prefixed with an F. That's where they get FXRP from, because it's Flare's representation of XRP. Yeah, crucially, this trustless issuance on Flare does not require the cooperation of the non-Turing complete networks, meaning that the other networks do not have to make changes to their protocol to enable the issuance on Flare. So basically, Flare sits above the protocol layer, so XRP does not have to do anything to enable Flare. Flare literally sits above and enables these smart contracts. So I think that's really interesting because say we want to do smart contracts on Bitcoin or Litecoin or XRP. Bitcoin is going to cost you tons to do any smart contract stuff on because it's not built that way. XRP, however, is interesting because it is built as a global payment system that is supposed to be cheap to perform such mechanisms. So I think this is really important and probably why Flare has so much hype around it. So yeah, I think that is probably, I'm just reading through the rest of it. It just gives more info. In terms of the consensus, again, I'm not a great understander of the different consensus mechanisms, so I'll probably leave that to you guys to understand yourselves. But there's a whole load of definitions that will probably come in handy later. There's all sorts of very difficult to understand computer science sort of stuff here. 2.2 is how we do the state connectors, how they all work. So again, probably for a fuller understanding, we'll want to read through this, but I just want to get to the core ideas here. So I'm going to skip to number 3. So the Spark token. The Spark token is an intrinsic currency of Flare. Its technical use is to curtail network spam. Is introduced in 3.1, so this is going to be the key section for us. We may take a quick look at the applications in 3.2, and if you want to understand more about the tokenomics, then we need to see 3.3. So let's quickly jump through each one of these. I'm conscious that we're now running on to 20 minutes, so we want to keep this snappy as possible, even though we're reading through a heavy technical paper. Cool, so technical use is to impose a cost upon transactions so as to disincentivize superfluous transactions, i.e. network spanning. This is achieved via a network transaction fee. So I think what they're saying here is each transaction is going to need some gas, and the gas conversion rate, there's going to be some mathematics that's going to calculate a gas conversion rate. So we'll skip over this as we don't really need to understand how gas is going to work. But again, if you want to look more into it, I suggest taking a deeper dive into this. So Spark-dependent applications. So Spark is used as the arbiter of network governance and a central component of an interlocking set of utilities that collectively form a novel way of structuring decentralized applications, termed SDAs. Each of these components is set in brief below. The SDA structure is intended to provide utility by allowing applications to deploy on Flare network to optionally benefit from. So this is just how they benefit from, or how XRP, for instance, will benefit from having Spark tokens or connect to Flare. So let's take a look at these. So access to assets and ecosystems that are not previously available through smart contracts, e.g. XRP. The use of Spark as a collateral or usage medium. The use of Flare time series Oracle, which will gather data from the outside. The depth and interest or expertise that can be brought to bear over governance. So it's suggesting that it may be a governance layer for all these projects. And the increased likelihood of attention for a new application from the Spark owning community against the attention that an application would have used from bootstrapping to zero. So this is an interesting bit. It's just hinting at how they intend to scale this. So any developer can quickly plug in, I think this is what they mean, can quickly plug in the Flare network rather than creating their own Turing complete solution, rather than bootstrapping from zero. So yeah, so these are the network effects of the SDA. Just as a note, if you're still watching from a fundamental analysis, these will be the 5 that we can use to determine how well they are doing. So I will be using this in the follow-up video. Probably the key bits here, just having a quick look over, 100 billion tokens will be created. 45 billion tokens will be claimable by XRP token holders, excluding Ripple Lab accounts. Basically, there's going to be 45 billion coins in circulation when it launches, which XRP holders are going to claim, and they're hoping that's going to jumpstart the network. But they are holding 55 billion back for other airdrops and stuff like that. Just talking more about the XRP snapshot date. So here we go, time series oracle, probably the one we understand the least about. So the Flare time series oracle provides an estimate of information pertaining to external world which is required on train. For the system to rely on one or more external information sources in order to provide this estimate would effectively introduce centralization. So they're trying to be careful here, not to just rely on, say you want market data, to just go to CoinMarketCap, because then CoinMarketCap could control all the information coming onto and off the network. So I think the idea here is to pull in different information sources and reward them with Spark tokens, leveraging a kind of peer-to-peer network, and whilst incentivizing users to contribute via the earning of rewards. So yeah, let's do a rapid fire through all these. So decentralized oracles typically leverage system participants in order to vote regarding the nature of a given proposition, and they're just talking about which ones. Over recent years, the need to query external information to the chain has sparked development of various approaches. So that's just laying out the approaches. The FTSO is a decentralized application that aims to generate accurate estimates of off-chain time series data to the Flare network. The oracle takes as inputs estimates from two sets of participants: Spark holders and relevant asset holders. So this is going to be the Spark token people and the FXRP holders in the first instance at regular prescribed time intervals. A governance parameter, which I guess they're putting in there. They're putting this key bit in here, as you'll probably be able to vote on that in the future. Participants from both sets may, but are not obligated to submit the system their current estimates. So this is talking about like a peer-to-peer approach to gathering data. So say there's a load of us who are sitting there looking at the price of XRP. We can just submit that, and that's going to be the Flare oracle. The resulting set of votes form a distribution over the data estimates, termed the weighted estimate distribution. In order to remove outliers, which consist of errors and attempts to be malicious, only the middle 50% will be determined. So basically what they're going to do, if you did statistics, they're going to put a bounding box, an upper bound and a lower bound, and then you're going to have your outliers, which are the kind of the end to the kind of end, and they're just going to take that middle bit, which I can't remember the statistical name for it, but it's the central bit, a bit like we see on candlestick charts. It's going to be that middle bit. And then it just goes into computing the estimates, which again, you can take a look at if you understand hieroglyphics. Now, these papers are usually quite good at denoting setting out how each symbol is represented. You are going to need to understand mathematics to understand what they're trying to go for. So I'm not going to go into this here because it's been too long since I have done this. So yeah, jumping over this. So compensation is an important bit. Spark holders that submitted an estimate that remained in the distribution after truncation are compensated. So again, it's this thing where, let me just highlight that, where only the middle range is going to be compensated because the two anomalies at either end of the box plot, that's the word for it, the two most extreme ends are going to be malicious attacks generally. So the precise amount of Spark tokens minted for reward is a network governance parameter, which is initially set at 10% of the Spark tokens in circulation per annum, termed the award date. So what would be interesting here is, okay, so they're gonna mint a percentage of Spark tokens at the beginning of the year to award successful votes. So by default, we're going to start off at 10%. If this is deemed too low by the network, we can then vote to increase that. So that's quite an interesting mechanism there. There's going to be limits on the number of votes we can have and the award period. Okay, yeah. So if you want to understand more about how you vote and govern this network, I'd suggest, again, coming in and reading this yourself. Accessing pseudo-randomness on chain. I don't think we need to cover this. Iterating around the compensation scheme requires access to a random number between. I don't think this is going to be critical, although, yeah, I don't really understand it myself, so maybe something to come back to. Susceptibility to attacks. The FTSO builds on ideas introducing Shilling Coin, which is susceptible to the P plus E attack. The FTO differs from the Shilling Coin in that it introduces implicit stake in the form of Spark and any contributing F asset and where each series is formed by at least 2 participants in the differing. Okay, so I probably need to read up a bit more on this because I don't quite understand it reading it for the first time here. And there's quite a lot of detail. But yeah, we can leave that till next time. So moving on to governance, let's take a look at this and then I think we will be done. So governance, the Spark token is used as the primary governance mechanism over the Flare network, the Spark token and the Flare time series oracle. These elements are detailed in what is set out below. Spark can also be optionally used for governance over dependent applications. This is determined by the application itself and is not relevant to this paper. So what this is saying is if you want to set up your own governance structures using Spark, you can do, and they're not going to get involved. Certain updates from governance decision can be automated, termed automated processes, whereas others, non-automated processes, cannot. Now that will require more complex procedure requiring for instance changes to the code base. Okay, so this is where if there's a super specific update, then it's going to be a manual change. Otherwise, it's going to be automatic. Table 1 shows the governance parameters. So these are all the things we can vote on. Decisions that can be automated are shown in black. So these are kind of input parameters to the network. So there's a limit, a spark to gas unit conversion, and then all these reward stuff for governance. All the decisions, whereas decisions that require code change are in blue. So these are the stuff that is hardwired in. Again, we probably don't need to understand too much about it as network participants, as investors into the network, but as network participants, we probably want to understand it if you want to be an active part. Then we talk about decision categories, where there's a simple decision, then it's a 30% turnout with more than 50% in favor for a supermajority if it's a really big thing, or in a supermajority is basically American government. And yeah, so that is that, and then it outlines what each one needs. So for instance, transaction cost parameters, a simple majority is needed. So this details all the governance. Flare will follow a liquid democracy model whereby token holders are free to vote for themselves or delegate to someone else. Yep, another useful thing if you're interested in voting. And considerations, you should also read this if you are looking to vote. And I believe there's more on voting. And that is it really for the technical analysis. There is then the Flare Foundation, which just outlines the kind of an introduction to how the Flare Foundation will work, but a complete constitution will be released separately. So it's probably better to go look at that. And I think, and well done for sticking to the end if you have, because I think that was relatively heavy. That is it for today. So yeah, I hope you understand a bit more. I certainly do, and I will be looking into the Spark network, Flare network even more, and the Spark tokens, because I think it's a really interesting project. I hope that was a good use of your time. Let me know in the comments below if it was, or where I can do better. And yeah, like I say, I'm not an expert in these areas, so I'm just kind of giving my thoughts as we go through and trying to relate it back to my experience and what I understand. And I hope I did the Flare network justice there. So yeah, that's it for today. Like I said earlier in my crypto news update, I will be doing a fundamental analysis of this from more of a business point of view, but I felt it was important to learn more about the technical nature of it before I could accurately describe that. And I hope, or I think that I am better able to do that now. So I'll be drawing the fundamental analysis up soon. So yeah, give us a like, give us a subscribe if you want to watch that, and hit the bell notification if you want that straight to your inbox, basically. And I think that is it. So well done again for today. I hope that wasn't too painful, and I will see you in the next one.